And the only way that, and this is not low-paid workers, these are middle-class people as well, the only way they'll be able to maintain their standard of living is through debt, through borrowing, through credit. Germany itself has only, in 3 years since the war, not ran a budget deficit. So Germany is actually a normal country. It's a country that currently is stronger. In the 1990s, because of unification, Germany had great struggles. And there's a famous book by a man called Günter Wallraff, a German journalist, dressed up as a Turk, went every year and worked as a Turk called Ganz Unten. And there's a German underclass as well, and there's a German proletariat without much money. Now, my only criticism is it's not of Mrs. Merkel, it was of other people as well. You're quite right, I mean, England's out of this game at the moment. And no doubt when we meet Germany in the Euro 2012 contest, we know who will win that match as well. But I do think, yes, Mrs. Merkel is a prisoner of, we're all prisoners of national political classes now. She's a prisoner of some very ugly language by the right-wing press in Germany, particularly the populist press. The language about the Greeks, frankly, that borders on racist, in my judgment. We're talking over the last 2 or 3 years, lazy Greeks, stupid Greeks, not actually understanding that all the money Europe sends to Greece, bars 6 billion euros, all of it has been recycled to German and French banks. Greece can solve some of its economic problems tomorrow by no longer buying Mercedes, BMW, Siemens. The German export model has been very good for Germany, but it's been paid for by all other European countries transferring a lot of their national wealth to Germany by buying German products. Now, that national wealth can either be sat on or it can be recycled. That's the big problem at the moment. Germany is not prepared to see its national wealth recycled. And there's one reason for that. This is a problem for the interpreters. In German, as Deutsche Freunde Genossen can confirm, the word for debt and the word for guilt is the same. Schuld. Schuld is to be indebted, Schuld is to be guilty. Guilty in the eyes of God. Therefore, if you have debt, as the Greeks have debt, they are guilty. And the guilty must be punished. Gott straft die Schuldigen. Therefore, I want the German language to change. Either find a new word for guilt or a new word for debt, but don't have the same word for both. And once that linguistic breakthrough has been achieved, everything will be all right.
Let me first deal with your last question on Georgia. I was by no means saying that everything is perfect in Georgia. I was simply stating that given the dark days of the 1990s and the situation here in Georgia before the revolution, I still think it's pretty remarkable. That's not to say there aren't problems that need addressing. Of course there are. And I don't call myself an expert after 2 days here, and I'm sure I will come back. On Germany, I have a lot of admiration for Chancellor Merkel. She has got the most incredible backstory from East Germany. The way she rose up the ranks of her party is really impressive. And just to quote the Polish foreign minister when he said that he fears German inaction more than German action, and he found himself surprised that he was thinking and saying that. The truth is that obviously Chancellor Merkel is in an incredibly difficult situation, and your manufacturing base is the envy of the world. We're doing a lot of work analysing your success, and I'd love to have the same success in the UK when it comes to the way that you train people, your skills base, your manufacturing, your exports are tremendously successful. And I read the other day you've got the lowest level of unemployment since reunification. So I wasn't being anti-Germany or anti-German, but I do think that Chancellor Merkel has made mistakes, and I do think that she does view a sort of the policies that she is pursuing with the Greeks do seem to be a sort of form of punishment, and that's not going to work. Whether you think it's right or not is another question. Of course, there needs to be reform in Greece. Of course, they need to stop spending at the same levels that they were. And both our sister party, PASOK, and the centre-right party were guilty of that and cooked the books in order to present figures on deficits and debts that simply weren't true. And the debt to GDP ratio in Greece has been over 100% since the early 90s. So I'm not excusing Greece. I'm just saying that there is a different way, and there is a more effective way of trying to help Greece out of its current crisis.
Une seule chose très petite. Oui, il y a beaucoup de problèmes en Géorgie, c'est vrai. Évidemment. Il y a aussi beaucoup de problèmes partout. C'est vrai aussi. Et il y a une chose qu'il faut reconnaître à la Géorgie, c'est que dans les gros problèmes du monde, il y en a un, c'est un des principaux, et Khodorkovsky, qui est maintenant un prisonnier politique en Russie, a dit c'est plus important que le problème nucléaire, le problème de la corruption. Il y a une corruption fantastique qu'on n'a jamais vue dans le monde, tout simplement parce qu'il y a deux pays qui n'investissent qu'à moitié, ou pas du tout chez eux, et qui ressortent leurs capitaux. Les capitaux russes qui viennent du pétrole et du gaz ressortent dans les paradis, dans les achats d'appartements, etc., etc. Et de même la Chine. Alors, très simplement, il y a une corruption fantastique maintenant mondialisée. Et il y a une corruption mondialisée, jamais vue jusqu'aujourd'hui. Il y avait les mafias, il y avait plein de choses, mais à ce point, jamais vu. Et ce qu'il y a d'extrêmement remarquable, c'est que malgré toute la propagande anti-géorgienne qui existe à Moscou et à Saint-Pétersbourg, les gens disent « Vous devriez, vous, monsieur Poutine, ou vous, monsieur Medvedev, suivre l'exemple de la Géorgie qui a réformé sa police et qui lutte contre la corruption comme vous ne l'avez jamais fait. » Et ça, c'est quand même un mérite fantastique qu'on doit reconnaître aujourd'hui à la Géorgie. Ça ne règle pas tous les problèmes, mais au moins il faut le reconnaître honnêtement. Quant à l'Allemagne, eh bien l'Allemagne, elle a beaucoup de mérite. Elle a investi pour l'Allemagne de l'Est. Elle s'est sacrifiée pour ça. Oui, elle a beaucoup de mérite. Et ce n'est pas un reproche qu'on peut lui faire de bien vendre des voitures qui sont bien construites avec l'accord des syndicats et l'accord des patrons. C'est très bien. C'est un exemple. Et la Grèce, on peut aussi lui faire des reproches. Parce que l'Église, qui est le principal propriétaire foncier, ne paye pas d'impôts, et que les armateurs n'en payent pas non plus, eux qui sont les plus riches de Grèce, eh bien oui, il faut faire des reproches à la Grèce. La Grèce est responsable. Et la population est responsable dans la mesure où elle n'exige pas qu'on mette à la raison et l'Église et les armateurs. Mais, pour en revenir à l'Allemagne, il y a un point où elle a tort, c'est de passer sur toutes les objections des pays baltes, des Polonais, des Ukrainiens, jusqu'à il n'y a pas longtemps, et de beaucoup d'autres, et de s'entendre directement avec Poutine sans jamais demander la vie des autres Européens qui font partie de la communauté européenne de s'entendre directement pour récupérer le gaz et le pétrole, même quand Poutine coupe le circuit pour les Européens de l'Est. Et ça, c'est une attitude égoïste qui n'est pas bien et qui démolit l'Europe. Vous savez, on a dit que la République fédérale était un géant économique et un nain politique. Eh bien, la République d'aujourd'hui, l'Allemagne, elle est souvent aussi un nain politique. Et ça fait partie des problèmes de l'Europe.
და დაახლოებით როდის ფიქრობთ ეს შესაძლებელია და რა კომპლექსური ღონისძიებებით ეს შესაძლებელია? რა თქმა უნდა, ასე ძნელია მithumetes ამაზე პასუხი, მაგრამ არც ისეთი პასუხი მინდა რომ გერშენმა რომ ჩამოგწანდა 91 წელს შევარდაძე რომ ომით ჩამოისწრე, არც გერშენს და არც გერმანიას საქართველოს გაერთიანებისას თითქმის არაფერი არ გავაკეთებთ. იქით მავშის შესვლაზე ხელი შეუშალა. თქვენ მართალი გწადებით რომ ეკონომიური დიდი სხეულება მოსახლეობაში ეს ძალიან ცუდად აისახება. რუსეთს ძალიან ვებრძოლებით, იმიტომ რომ რუსეთს ბევრჯერ ებრძოლეს, მაგრამ თავისთავად მაინც დაიცვა და ერთხელ მახსოვს კლინტონს დაშლა წუნდოდა. თუ შეიძლება ცოტა
I think that the change and the protests that we saw in Russia in the autumn around the parliamentary elections and around the presidential elections show that there is a really deep sense of frustration about corruption, about the lack of proper democratic accountability, about human rights. And although Putin is the president again, he simply can't be the president forever. And I would hope, and I'm coming to your question in a minute, I would hope that at some point there will be a change in Russia of leadership, although it's going to be very difficult because there are vested interests in keeping it that way. But if there is change, I think then there's a chance that Georgia's territorial integrity can be secured again. But without that change, I'm very, very pessimistic indeed.
Monsieur Plusman, j'ai une question pour vous. Tout d'abord, je suis ravie de vous rencontrer ici dans le cadre de cette semaine. Vous avez cité Jean-Paul II, et notamment les Européens en vie comme si Dieu n'existe pas. J'ai deux questions, permettez-moi de les poser. La première, donc, si Dieu existe, est-ce qu'il y a une vérité ou des vérités? Et ma deuxième question est la suivante. N'est-il pas propre aux Européens qu'ils ont besoin de vivre avec des vérités et non avec une vérité? Merci beaucoup. Jean-Paul II-ის ფრაზა, რომ ევროპელი ცხოვრებანი ისეთი თქოს, ღმერთი არ არსებობდესო და ჩემი ორი კითხვა იყო შემდეგი. თუ ღმერთი არსებობს, არის ერთი ჭეშმარიტება, თუ არის ჭეშმარიტებები, ბატონი მუხსმანი მიხვდება, რა თქმა უნდა, რატომ თავსო ეს კითხვა და მეორე, ხომ არ არის დამახასიათებელი ევროპელებისთვის, რომ მათ არ ძალუძს ცხოვრობ ერთი ჭეშმარიტები და რატომ მათ სჭირდებათ ჭეშმარიტებები?
La seconde question, c'est quoi?
La seconde question était la suivante. N'est-il pas propre aux Européens qui ne peuvent pas vivre avec une vérité et qu'ils ont besoin de vivre avec des vérités?
Oui.
Merci.
C'est un peu la même question.
Tout à fait. Merci.
Bon, alors, le fait est que l'Européen n'a jamais vécu avec une seule idée de Dieu, même quand l'Europe était chrétienne.